a lot of people hear Nexus Letter, right? It's usually those two words together. Nexus Letter, Nexus Letter. I need a Nexus Letter. I need a Nexus Letter. And I think that what happens there is that a lot of people start to believe I need a Nexus Letter for everything. It's just part of the package, right? Because I hear we need a Nexus Letter. A Nexus Letter helps you establish your nexus, which is really the requirement, right? A Nexus Letter is not required. A nexus is required, right? So if you are missing some real definitive evidence that shows that your condition manifested during your time in service or as a result of your time in service, and it is not a presumptive condition, okay? So that's important because presumptive conditions eliminate the need for the nexus. So it drops that requirement. So if you don't have anything that proves that your condition manifested during your time in service or as a result of your time in service, you need to really prove to the VA that it did manifest or is a result of your time in service some way, somehow, right? So maybe you had migraines through your time in service and you never documented it when you were in, and it wasn't until 5 years after service that you documented it. It's not impossible to get that approved, but it's going to take extra work, and you need to do one thing for sure, and that's provide the VA proof of the nexus. Now you're going to work with your medical professional and have them write you a Nexus Letter. It's basically that medical professional saying that they've treated you, blah, 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 and that it is at least likely, and we'll get into what's a good one, but right now it's just what it is. So a Nexus Letter, basically from the doctor saying that your condition is most likely or more than likely or at least likely as a result of your time in service in some way or shape or form or what have you. So again, just to kind of double down on, a Nexus Letter is not required if you already proved the nexus through, I was diagnosed for my migraines when I was in service. That's the nexus. If I don't have that, now I need to build that nexus, and that's with a Nexus Letter and along with other things to support that. With a DBQ, disability questionnaire, disability questionnaires are worth nothing if you don't know what to put in them, okay? Or if your private doctor doesn't know what the hell the VA is looking for, right? It's a blank form, okay? The one thing that drives me crazy, Clay, is how important other people make DBQs seem. Like they're the end all, they're the solve it all. DBQ, period. Not if it's a blank form that you take to a doctor and you don't say anything, and then they just write in whatever they want, and then you get it and you don't even read it and you submit it. It could actually hurt you, right? So a DBQ is a blank form. However, it's in an organized fashion to allow you and your provider to work together to input information regarding your condition as it relates to the schedule of ratings. Wow, that sounded smart. And it's true, right? I mean, really, it is a blank form that's organized in a great fashion to help the VA determine your rating and so forth. And it's for you to work with your doctor and complete it in relation to the schedule of ratings, okay? You have to look at the schedule of ratings. If you're not going to look at the schedule of ratings and read your condition and know what they're looking for and understand where you fall on that rating and then take those same words and kind of embed that into the DBQ, don't even bother doing a DBQ. It doesn't really matter, to be honest with you. Now, you mentioned the VA doing a DBQ, which oftentimes they're supposed to by policy, but they don't. Which is, it's a whole other thing, and maybe we should try to champion some sort of change on that, because that drives me crazy too. If the VA is your sole provider of healthcare, and you're being pushed to go pay for an outside provider so you can get a damn DBQ, that seems like a slap in the face to me. So anyway, you should ask your VA provider if they would do one, and if they say no, fine, complain, do whatever you're going to do, but it is what it is. If you have a private healthcare provider, or you decide to go to a private healthcare provider because you feel as though you really need a DBQ completed to help you with your claim, that's on you, right? I've done that myself. I've went and paid out of pocket for a private provider to see me regarding my one specific condition, gave them some information on it, and saw them a couple times and got my DBQ and a Nexus letter and all that good stuff. So it's not saying that that's an impossible thing or you shouldn't do it. You should do what's right for you. The DBQ, again, needs to really pull in the information from that schedule of ratings. Now, what do you do, Clay, if nobody will do a DBQ for you, or you can't go pay out of pocket to see some, healthcare provider on, outside of the VA. So you're just kind of stuck at the VA. It's not the end of the world. Remember, it's a blank form with information on it. So what you could do is you could have that conversation with your VA doctor about your signs and symptoms as it relates to the schedule of ratings and say, hey, doc, I really want to make sure that these words get put into my file, right? And you can print it out, you can read it to them, you can hand it to them. You could write up a letter yourself saying that the patient, yourself, veteran so-and-so, has experienced the following signs and symptoms from their condition over the past 5 years, 3 years, 2 years, whatever, and go give it to the staff, the little where you make I need to get this into my medical record, please, and have them put that into your medical record. It's no different than you saying it to the doctor or writing it down and having it added into your medical record. Now it's part of your medical record. Ta-da! Mm-hmm. So that's kind of I know I kind of talked a lot, Clay.
No,
sorry.
That was good.
So Nexus, DBQ, internal, external, and then the what if there isn't. Back to you.
Yeah, I want to start with, well, first, I like how you make the distinction of the Nexus requirement, as in the big three, and then a Nexus letter. Two totally different things.
Totally.
And you're right. People believe that they need a Nexus letter for every single claim. And I don't want this. I want to set the ground rules here, okay? It is of my opinion that, and I'm going to focus on private, like paying out of pocket for a private Nexus and a private DBQ. It's my opinion that veterans should only consider that on two options. Option number one is in appeals only. You're really going to see Nexus letters shine in appeals and private DBQs shine in appeals, specifically the supplemental appeal. Because think about it. You have your initial claim. If you have the in-service event and you have the current diagnosis, and trust me, I'm not a fan of CMP examiners, but it doesn't take a genius to see evidence from service and a current diagnosis and say, oh, put those together. The overwhelming majority of service connections are done exactly like that, without a private Nexus, without a private DBQ. Now, my opinion, option one, supplemental appeals. And I'm also going to throw in the Board of Appeals. If you're going to the board, I really don't see a reason you would not get a private Nexus. Because that is, we're talking about pro beta value there. It's just, that's kind of outside of my wheelhouse, but that's my opinion on appeals. When should veterans consider, or not should, when can veterans consider a private Nexus and a private DBQ on any initial claim? And I'm going through every scenario I can possibly think of, and there's only one. Let's say you're at 93% in this, mental health secondary to lower back, which is a difficult claim, by the way. That even at a 30% criteria would push you up to 100, and you just want to go all in, all eggs in this basket. I would, although I'm a fan of the appeals thing, I think in that scenario, I could at least support the veteran saying, hey, I think it's a good idea. I would go to a psychiatrist, get that depression secondary to lower back, Nexus letter, and a DBQ. If you're not one of those situations, I would probably never recommend you to get a private Nexus and a private DBQ. Now, can you? Absolutely. If you have, the available funds and you don't care, or you just want to, not buy Starbucks for 6 months, that'll probably afford a Nexus letter with how expensive Starbucks is, right? If you want to do that and make a very strong claim up front with an initial claim, can you do it? 1,000%, go for it. It's just my opinion that it's not needed, because obviously evidence from service and a current diagnosis, it's there. Now, I do want to transition into what makes a good actually, before I do that, you had said something, and I totally want to hit on it, Jason. You had mentioned, getting specific words into your medical file. I am a fan of that. I would recommend using the app, the VA's Health and Appointments app. You can set up appointments, get prescriptions, do everything, and guess what? You can also send a secure message to your healthcare provider, and that message verbatim is put into your blue button report. And so it's tracked.
Nice.
Right? The VA, your healthcare team has to read it. And so, for instance, this might be a little TMI here. Maybe a couple weeks ago, I sent a secure message to my healthcare team about a TBI clinic and just listing out some symptoms. Now, I have nothing to do with VA claims at this point in my life, right? But I want to communicate my symptoms to my healthcare provider, and that's in my blue button report right now. If I downloaded it, I could Control F, and that's just a very easy way from your phone in about 10 minutes, right? You can have that put into your record, and then that will also prompt your provider to go speak about it. They might ask you if you want an appointment, telehealth, in person, whatever that looks like for you. The secure messaging system on the app I'm a big fan of.
That's awesome. That is absolutely awesome. Yes, do that. And then say, yes, I just want a telehealth appointment to double down on what I just said.
Yeah, there we go.
That's sweet. And then they validate it, and now you're super solid. What an easy way. And I think that people are missing the boat with that. We get so wrapped around the axle that it has to be a certain way, and it doesn't. If you do it this way, and let's say that you do not do a DBQ, okay? So no DBQ because it's the VA. They said no. But then you did it this way. You typed in all that information. Here's the things that I'm experiencing, which is really the whole reason you're utilizing a DBQ, is to show the severity and that you meet the criteria for a specific rating, okay? So you're going to do that in this blurb, submit it, and then when they reach back, you say, yes, I want a telehealth appointment. Yeah, it's been like this for the last 5 years. And, is there, I'm just wanted to make sure we get that documented. And, is there anything else that we can do? Whatever your conversation is. And then they'll validate that they had that conversation with you. And now when you file your claim, if they deny you on the higher rating, I can file a higher level review with an informal conference and point out in my medical records on such and such date that I provided this. And then I had the telehealth appointment that doubled down on that, talking about the past 5 years, I've been at the same level. Why 5 years, by the way? If you have been, right, you must have been for 5 years or more. But as long as you've been more than 5 years, you need to say it, whether it's 5, 7, 10, because it will make it a static condition. Right? Because now you've been the same for 5 years. So the 5-year rule. So ideally, it should be a static condition. Anyway, I'm getting all excited and ramped up now.
I know applications on iPhones might be new to you, Jason. No, I'm kidding.
Wah. So, but that's a great thing, though, man. I'm glad you brought it up.
It is
for real. That's
the
important.
secure messaging is awesome. Now, the DBQ and the Nexus